how did you even hear about the Film Center? Was there someone that inspired you that went there, or was it something that was on your radar?
I was involved with like Lyft and Video Fact and making, so maybe I heard of it through the Black Film and Video Network. I knew that many of them had gone to the Film Center. Clement and Stephen Williams, like a very small community of Black filmmakers that I looked up to. When the hurricane was shooting, I was able to become Norman Jewison's apprentice. I was like, okay, I want to apply, but I don't know if I should go as a director or as a writer. And he said, it's the director's movie.
Of course he would.
and he said, you'll get experience shooting. Where are you going to get that experience if you don't go there? I'm like, I don't know, Seemed like the directing path was what I was best to try. And Norman had this vision for emerging filmmakers, and as someone who really was one of the architects of our film industry. And while we know, I don't think we talk about it enough, what he did for numerous filmmakers individually as well as collectively at the Film Center, just by creating it and by saying, we need a place for emerging filmmakers in this country to go and to hone their expertise and their craft, and to be introduced to other established directors and producers to understand, because that's sort of how the business works, right? Through networking and through hearing people's stories of how they've accomplished what they've accomplished. So on the craft side, but also on the life side, it's really, really valuable.
The other day we were on the Zoom call together, and there was something that counted something like 26 CFC alumni. I'm connecting for the first time. And for me, that was a very powerful moment. Did it mean something to you to be on that and experience that with that many of us at one time?
It's so lovely just visually to have that image of like Black Canadian filmmaking and the Film Center's role in it. A lot of it is just about claiming that space and saying like, we have lots to say, and now we can actually even maybe potentially collaborate with each other more and facilitate connections between each other that might not happen if we don't make the effort.
I'm curious about your time when you were developing here. The question of like, she's not ready or she is ready, or that trust being relinquished to you. Did you have resistance with that?
I was basically a filmmaker for 10 years before I made my first half-hour episode. I think among filmmakers in Toronto, I had a bit of a community and people that had worked with me on different projects. But the challenge I had was making the step from being a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, to a working director. And that was not an easy step. I remember right out of the Film Center, I think it was really even hard for me to get meetings as a director. And the few that I did get on just my completion of Film Center programs were kind of a little bit disheartening. Like, people didn't know what to do with me when I told them I was a director. I didn't launch in the way that I had thought I might. But I continued to make my own projects and I worked on my craft.
What does diversity in filmmaking ultimately achieve, Dawn?
Well, I think that it allows society to feel represented. I mean, part of the reason I became a filmmaker was that I didn't feel that films that I saw represented my experience.
When Jennifer Holness and Sud Sutherland got their first half-hour show, Jennifer and I had known each other from the Film Center, and Joan Jenkinson, who was the executive at Vision at the time, facilitated my first approval as a director to actually work on a union show. But the hard thing was that 10 years, there were definitely times where I wanted to give up. And even after that first half hour, because as anyone, directing knows, it's not just the first credit that's hard. It's like the first 3 or 4 even before people start to be willing to hire you regularly. I think that it's important also on our side as filmmakers to continue to be creative and be persistent. And, something I learned early in my career in Canada was that I had done, I had 1 year maybe or 2 that were kind of busy. And then I thought, okay, people are going to start to call me now. And then that third year wasn't so busy because I hadn't been pushing as hard as I had prior. And I realized that just because you do a good job or you do a good job whenever you get the opportunity, you still have to push. You still have to make the effort to reach out to people, to show them your latest work. I feel like a lot of executives have a lot of work to review and a lot of filmmakers to keep in mind. And so it's helpful to help them by reminding them what you're up to in a nice way, and not to be super aggressive about it, but to be assertive and consistent in letting people know what you're doing.
I often think about Malcolm Gladwell's idea of this 10,000 hours and the metaphor of achieving mastery, how long it actually takes.
Yeah.
What do you think about the idea of access and how we can practice those 10,000 hours?
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, that's why there are less women and Black directors and diverse directors in general. Is the access to the film education is expensive, filmmaking is expensive, developing projects takes time. If you don't have a trust fund, you have to work. Like, it's not a joke. A lot of filmmakers do come from a very economically privileged background for all of those reasons. And I get approached by emerging filmmakers quite frequently. And these are the questions that they ask me. How can I get experience? What do I do? If you're in a city that has production, you can work in any capacity and see production. You can shadow if you can get access, which is a little more difficult because you need connections. Now there's so much available online. Like there's podcasts, there's interviews, there's YouTube videos about filmmaking. Like I see my son with his apps and everything. He shoots little films, with his phone, and it's not the same, right? It's not the same as having a crew and executing your vision with the directorial tools of like an entire set. But the first couple of films you make, you can explore aesthetic, visual, voice. So if you're cut out for it and you're prepared to make some of the sacrifices that are inevitable, you can totally be successful. You just need mentors, and you need encouragement, and you need to be able to find how to motivate yourself when it looks like it doesn't make sense.
Sometimes it comes up in those who approve us as directors. Do you think they're serious about actually engaging with Black filmmakers? A few of us who are actually working in this sort of space.
I think there's a growing commitment to have Black filmmakers in positions of leadership and authority. I do, and I think it's partially because the international market and the streaming world is showing audiences that are going to connect to that material, that it's not an exercise in charity. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's actually a good business idea to hire us and to give us the chance to express our perspectives in these mediums. And I find the conversation about, racism, that the scale that it's happening on now, really inspiring. I think we're going to see a lot of new and interesting shows and films as a result of the further opening of this discussion. So I'm really glad to be a part of it and to be a storyteller and to see the opportunities becoming even more.
Is there anything that you think that the CFC can do right now to participate in this? Anything specifically?
Quite recently, I was part of the Directors Lab Selection Committee. And so it was interesting to really be a part of that process. And I feel like the more Black alumni that are involved in selection committees and mentorship at the Film Center is going to make a huge difference to our network, and also our skills, and also our voices. I feel like if you're developing a project, and we know that the specific can be universal, right? So your very specific experience that seems to be about like some gendered, racialized experience can be very universal, and you get to the humanity of it. So, but sometimes you need mentorship that understands those specifics. If you're in the middle of it, if you're in the forest of ideas and you're trying to find the arc, it doesn't hurt sometimes to have a mentor who maybe has been there in terms of the content and the details. So I definitely think, even more diversity in terms of mentors will be helpful. And I think involving alumni more actively in all the ways that we can participate in the Film Center would be great.